All right, so that voice that you're hearing is YoungstaCPT.
I'm sorry, I couldn't contain myself.
How are you, youngin?
I don't know how to act anymore.
You don't know how to act?
I don't know how to act
Is it the
anymore,
space? Is it me? Is it the album? What's going on?
It's hip-hop, you know. Hip-hop wakes me up in the morning and it does this to me.
Yes, but then also Joburg gave you a nice little gift this morning.
No doubt.
Darkness.
No doubt. I love it. I love it. Dreams don't pay bills and it seems to not pay the rent either, nor the electricity bill or the water tally.
Hectic. Did you shower?
I did.
Are you sure?
I did.
Where? In a Vascom?
Yeah. Now we went old school with it, bro.
Hectic. Well, thank you. You look nice.
Thank you. I tried. I brushed my teeth also.
Yes, that's
Just
the
for
big one.
Just for the listeners out there, just to keep it fresh.
No, I thought maybe that's why you put distance between us, because maybe it was it's a bit tricky.
Just for the socializing.
So I saw you just the other day, the media launch for Dreams Don't Pay Bills.
Indeed.
And that was super incredible. And you had mentioned that it was the first time you were launching in Joburg.
Correct.
Why?
Well, I felt like I wanted to take a different approach, just because, like, I think the world has taken a different approach. Really.
Yeah.
Like, we've taken a left turn that nobody expected to take. And, you know, we've all been kind of left to fend for ourselves and figure something out, alternative plans, you know, come up with, like, new ways of hustling and promoting and marketing and so forth. And I just figured, like, if I'm going to try and do it from Cape Town, it might take longer to reach the public and the masses of South Africa, you know, because, I mean, there's so much dope music that's come out of Cape Town that I can just rattle off for you with names and titles, but you're not going to know what it is. You know, you might know the artist or the album or the producers. So I know that in order for something to get the maximum amount of traction and exposure, you need to be in Johannesburg for that to happen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it, you know. I mean, there's even places in the States where it's like that, you know, but they just have more places than one, whereas in South Africa, we just have the one place.
Right.
So I knew that launching it here would be the better move.
Now, after the fact, do you still believe that it was a good move? How do you feel about that now that the launch has happened?
Definitely feel like it was a good move. Yo, if I was in Cape Town, I wouldn't have got that kind of response or that kind of like love and appreciation from the media, so to say. You know what I mean? I mean, the fans and the public and the listeners, they've still been you know, riding with me, whatever the case may be. But in today's time, it's like, and this is no disrespect to the listeners or the fans, but we don't have that many listeners like we used to.
True.
Everybody is now a participant. Everyone is a rapper, everyone's a videographer, everyone's a producer, everyone's a clothing designer now. Nobody's actually purchasing these things anymore. People are creating it and trying to sell it instead, you know.
Right.
So I'm, you know, selling my music to guys who also want to be rappers.
Yes.
I'm not selling it to just average everyday listeners. I'm selling the music to people that want to be musicians. So it's a bit more tricky now, because they're not listening to you like die-hard fans and crying over every line you say and hanging on your words. They're listening to you, criticizing and thinking, I can rap better than this.
True. But then does that change the way that you create the music?
Not for me personally, because if you look at my, you know, my past and my back catalog of music, it's always been very purely hip-hop based. I won't say I didn't experiment with other sounds, because obviously I have, but in terms of the lyrical content, I never steered away from the message and the point and, you know, kind of the themes of my music, whether it was Cape Town or the struggle or the history of South Africa, whatever the case. If you listen to something from 2011 of mine and 2021, the message is more or less the same. Not saying I haven't grown as an artist or a person, because I have, but I just mean in terms of what the music represents and what the music encompasses. It's the same message, you know, that I've always been pushing. I never ever diverged or tried to change that just to like sell or to be accepted in the industry, you know. I just kept and stuck to the script, you know. So
tell me about the decision to work with Shaney Jay on a full 16-track offering. I mean, we heard the collabo with Shane Eagle and produced by Shaney Jay, but this is something completely different, because you could easily just have done that joint and been like, that was great, on to the next one.
No doubt. So in 2020, before the pandemic, the world came to an end, I was planning to release a White Gen compilation album.
Okay.
Where I was going to basically just have it a mix of various Cape Town artists. So from your vocalists to your rappers to DJs, you know, whatever the case. And we're like, I wanted to do kind of like a Puff Daddy and the Bad Boy Family compilation. Nice, that was actually my idea. That's where I took it from. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, we had to go back to the drawing board and just like figure life out. Like, who cares about music at that point? And Shaney Jay came to me during that time.
Right.
You know, he was brought to me. I didn't, know him for a very long time. and I literally just heard like 3 beats of his, and it felt refreshing knowing that this person was unknown, number 1, they were from Cape Town, number 2, and they were young, number 3.
Yeah.
So those are things that were all standing out to me. I was like, I've never heard of this guy. He's a young guy and he's new, he's fresh, you know. So I set up a meeting with him, and thereafter, like in the first few moments of speaking to him, I could just pick up on his humility, man.
Yes.
And how humble he was.
Quiet
he's
as
so
well.
quiet. You know, he's very unsuspecting. You might not even notice him.
Yes.
And this is something I just want to give a shout out to all producers out there listening. Producers, luister, are you listening? Kanala, please, are you listening? I love you, my bro. I love you. I love your behavior. I love your character. I love your personality. Just because I can see that you're so purely in it for the creation of the art and nothing else.
Right.
Eventually, yes, the success will come and we'll see how that tests you. But for the most part, I can say like the producers out there, and this is a common thread that I've noticed through the producers I work with and various other ones that I've met. And we had this discussion last night, actually, Sani. We were saying like these guys have this very like introverted personalities, man.
Yes.
Where they don't want to be in the spotlight and they don't want to stand on the stage and they don't want to like get props for their work. And it's crazy because at the moment, like I'll say in the last few years of hip hop, it's the producers that have actually outshined the rappers.
Yeah.
This is one of the first times like it has consecutively been proven. Like 2019, okay, you know, it's just before COVID, but I will still say like the rappers weren't really rapping. Even in 2019, you know, they were still giving like this mediocre, this average kind of, I'll just, you know, rap a song with 50 words in it and that's enough. I'll just give the bare minimum. As long as I've given you something, that's enough, you know. Right. And I feel like that's what the rappers kind of got stuck into, like over the last few years. And the beats that they've been rapping on, stellar. I mean, guys like Shooter, that produced Pretty Ugly's album. Guys like Zucci, that produced 25K's album. I mean, Ganja Beats, her Cut the Lights. Yes. Like there's so many new names that have emerged and names that have been around forever that they've still managed to be consistent and keep it going and reinvent themselves without being like, you know, quote unquote, the artist. Yes. These guys are in the background. They are not in the forefront. So when I met Shaney and I just saw he had that same personality that I was like, oh, another one of these producers that don't want to be famous and that don't want the props and that don't want attention. I was like, you know what? I need someone like this around me now. Like at the time, like I said, the pandemic had just hit. I mean, we were all scrambling, you know, trying to figure out what to do next. I literally just acquired the Block, which is my store in Cape Town, the barber shop, the sneaker store, my mother's store, the YG apparel store, all on the same premises. And I mean, once that debit order comes off of that rent, oh my gosh! I mean, I'm used to a certain lifestyle, and then 2020 come. I was only a business owner for like what, 9 months? Yeah, 9 months, not even a year. I have a COVID business. Because my business started in 2 years in COVID, 9 months without it. That's intense. So I managed to keep that ship sailing in this time, you know. And, you know, throughout the shop and all those things, the studio was also being built. Yes. But the studio kind of like took a back step because, like I said, you know, we had to generate income as well to keep this place alive. So when Shaney walked in, I was like, you know what? I got a studio here, but nobody's in it. Maybe he can sit in it. Maybe he can be the engineer. Maybe he can be the producer. Yeah. And I asked him like, yo, what are you doing at home? He's like, nah, I'm, you know, doing all my recordings in the bedroom. I'm figuring things out still. You know, I have little artists that come through. I'm like, yo, would you mind like doing it from here? And then, you know, you can do your sessions with, you know, your artists who you still work with. But then also like I'll have people that come through and just like filter into the studio, and maybe you can, you know, meet them, network with them, whatever. And like a month later, Shane Eagle walked in the studio. That's dope. And then Shaney Jay was sitting there. I wasn't even there. Hectic, really? Shane was coming to look for me, but I wasn't there. And then when I returned to the studio eventually, I heard Ammo. Wow. Then Ammo without me. Shane Eagle and Shaney Jay made Ammo without me.
So if you look in the music, I
fell in. I just fell in. And I was like, God damn, is this what you're doing while I'm gone? So if you look in the video of Ammo, like I made sure Shaney was there. I made sure he gets his moment, you know, on screen. But like I say, you know, these producers still trying to hide away, you know, still not trying to take all the credit. But that's the story of Shaney Jay. That's also why I decided to work with him, just because I feel like producers need our praise. They need to be patted on the back. They need to be saluted for all that they've been doing for hip hop, because the beats have been outshining the lyrics for a while now.
That's true. Definitely agree. We're going to take a short break. Young, and I hope you're ready. We're going to talk now.
Away.
Okay. On Massive Metro, indeed, still hanging out with YoungstaCPT, talking all things dreams don't pay bills. So now we have the story of how you and Shaney Jay got to work together, right? Now I want to unpack some of the songs.
For sure.
So the other night you played us Coins, you played us Streetwise, you played us Hometown Advantage, and we were just jamming, and it was absolutely incredible. And it's one thing to listen to an album in that kind of setting,
for sure,
but it's another thing to go back and now listen to it
and live
on your own. And I was like, oh my god, really, oh my god. But there's something that you said at the launch, and I was laughing, but I was like, hey, that's actually quite interesting. That's quite a thread, because you were speaking about, you know, dreamers and all this other deep stuff, and then out of nowhere you're like, yeah, we still gotta make that shake your ass music.
Yeah.
Why? And how do you get it right where you make really impactful music that like sometimes makes us want to cry, that makes us want to go out there and save the world, and then you make us shake our asses.
And then I make Boichi.
But yes, but we're not there like, this is weird for young.
It's still not left field.
This is not young.
It's not off-brand.
Yes. How do you get that right?
Look, my music is based on, how I would say, geography.
Right.
So it's about where we're from as black people, as colored people. It's about where you find us. You don't always find us in the streets.
True.
And even if you don't find us in the club, in the VIP, you find us enjoying ourselves.
Yes.
You find us in parties, you find us in taverns, in shebeens. We call it the yacht in Cape Town, you know what I mean? And there's even a genre of music called yacht music, you know? So that's music like that you would necessarily play in backyard braais and like these little hood parties that get thrown. So if I look at I attended those as a kid, you know. In high school, that's where we were. We couldn't get in some clubs, you know. We were too young. The other times we got snuck in. The other times we coupled with the bouncers or whatever the case, like to get us in. We didn't want to dress up in shirts and pants. And I'm sure Joburg had that clubs also where you couldn't like wear your caps or you couldn't wear chains.
There's still places like that now. Even for ladies, you can't get into certain clubs if you're not wearing heels. Like if you're wearing kicks, it's like no.
And there we are. Yeah. You know. So I make music that also speaks to that specific, how I can say, like time lapse in our life, like when we at the party, when we at the yard, when we at the jewel, just to like brighten up some of the mood, because like you say, my music is very like militant, and there's always like this deeper meanings behind it, and we want to go out there and we want to protest and rally and save the world. So I don't always want to make it that, because as I said in the beginning of this interview, like if you can just keep it down to 50 words in a song these days,
bare minimum,
you can still be considered one of the greatest rappers of all. Fire flame emojis. Oh my god,
what a classic. He's the GOAT.
It's everything. For 50 words, bro. I released an album of 16 songs. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why, but this is my cross. This is my burden. Nobody else must ever take this from me.
Right. Nobody
must ever tell me like, oh, young, just dumb it down. Nah, there's enough rappers that already dumb it down. You have to have balance. You can't have a rap industry of dumbed down rappers only.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's going to oversaturate that side.
Yes.
You know, you need to have a healthy balance of it. So I'm the fruit and veg. And this other Owens is the takeaways.
One is healthy, one just fills you up very quickly. Hectic. All right, so there's a line. You say, I'm not a role model. I feel like an F up.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, I was like, that seems counterintuitive, right?
Most definitely.
Because so many people look up to you.
For sure.
And then later on, you make reference to being like a young Malcolm X, right? So I'm like, yo, but so many people look up to you as a role model. And now you're almost bucking against it and pushing away from it. But at the same time, you cannot control how the next person perceives or receives 100%. You. But why state that I'm not a role model? Why try and change that narrative in people's minds?
One thing I like about Malcolm X is that before he embraced Islam, his name was I forget his first name, but I know the nickname that he went by was Detroit Red. The reason why they call him Detroit Red is because he dyed his hair. He was still in the, I can say, slave mentality.
Right.
Where he believed that in order to be accepted, he needed to have straight hair.
Yes.
You know, so he did the hot comb, the iron, and he put
the relaxing and perm and stuff.
Thank you. And he tried to get his hair obviously to look like a white man. And that was his life before he went to jail and embraced Islam in prison. So if you look at it, his life before that was reckless. It was lawless. He was a criminal. Detroit Red, he was a hustler, he was a pimp, you know. And this is the same man that went to Egypt and made salah in the holiest of cities as well, in Mecca. You know, this is that same guy.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm sure at one point in his life he never thought that he would be that man. I'm sure he never thought he'd have that power and that control and that command over an entire race of people in that era also, when it was like the most like turmoil time ever.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm Malcolm X maybe, but like I lived a life before I rapped, you know, and I can't unsee that. I can't undo what I did. I did those things, man. You know, I did stupid things, a lot of juvenile things, a lot of immature things that I can't take back. The people I did it to is still out there. They remember some of those things, you know. They look at me, they see me as, you know, YoungstaCPT, but they will still call me Riyadh or Yati because why I'm, you know, my store is also located in my neighborhood. So there's people that obviously know me from like when I was a child, like primary school and younger, and then there's people who know me from like high school and up, and then there's people who just know me from rap. These are the kids that's walking by. They didn't know me when I was living in the area. They just know me as YoungstaCPT, you know, because I'm not there anymore. I'm all over the place. So I just wanted that line to be, you know, kind of highlighted because I know I'm a role model, but I don't feel like one sometimes. You know, when I think of certain things I did, I'm like, yo, how can I even be considered someone that you look up to? Because these are things that I did in my life, and now I stand on stages and tell kids when I do these school tours, like, yo, don't do that. Yo, stay in school. Yo, get your education, and etc. etc.
I think it is that very fact that makes you a role model.
Correct. You know, this is a contradiction.
Right.
You know, this is the
and
way
it's also what I was saying to Instra the one day, where it's like, you know, if a pastor comes to you and they haven't lived the sinful life, before, and they're trying to tell you, stop drinking, don't have sex before marriage, it lands a little bit differently, because it's like, you don't know how difficult it is for me to not do this thing that you're saying.
100%.
But when he or she has gone through it, it humanizes them more, and people are more likely to listen to you when they know that you've lived a flawed life like them. So they know you understand.
For sure.
And that's why they can hear you.
No doubt, no doubt.
All right, so you intentionally speak to dreamers.
Yes.
But I feel like it's not the first time you speak to dreamers.
No,
you're always speaking to dreamers. So why be this intentional about it and go, I'm talking to you?
Well, I think that had a lot to do with Shaney Jay. You know, I speak about producers, and I speak about their humility and, you know, their behavior and how well they carry themselves even when they get successful. And I met Shaney Jay, and, you know, within the first 5 minutes of talking to him, like I said, I only met him in 2020, so it was a pandemic. In the first 5 minutes of talking to him, I could see that he had so much ambition. Like, you know, when you look in somebody's eyes and you're like, hey, this boy got that thing also. I've seen it. Like, you know, like you see it in like athletes. You see it in other musicians as well. You see it in artists also when they speak about their art. Like they'll talk about their paintings that they do, or they'll speak about the piece that they painted or whatever. And you can see like the admiration that they have for the actual art itself, the process of creating it, you know. And when I spoke to Shane, I was like, hey, this boy has a lot of he's talking. And in my mind, I'm running these words back. I'm like, yo, this guy's a dreamer. And the only reason, he's dreaming. The only reason I thought that is because like we were in a pandemic number one. It was 2020. The year wasn't looking good
at all.
And he's in South Africa. He has no experience of the music industry in this country. The music industry in South Africa,
that's a lot against him.
That's a lot working against, and he's in Cape Town and he's in his 20s. So I'm like, hey, my man, I would love to sell you like you know, this fantasy and this mirage of what it's gonna be like, because he's obviously coming to me as, yo, this is YoungstaCPT. He can save me. I'm not saying that's what he came for, but obviously like that's why he was there. He was there to make music with me. So he's sitting and I'm thinking like, yo, how am I gonna break the news to him?
Yes.
How am I gonna break the news like, yo, the world is in a very, very crazy place right now, and I'm not sure that I'm excused from it either. I'm I'm in the craziness, you know. I'm also trying to figure it out. So that look he had in his eyes, that spaced out look, I was like, yo, he's dreaming, but dreams don't pay the bills. And that's been written on my desk for 9 years, by the way.
Hectic.
I came up with a name like 9 years ago, like maybe 2010 or 2011. I graffiti, so I tagged it on my desk, and I see it every morning. I just never ever used it for anything because I never had a project that kind of, I can say, inspired that mood immediately.
Right.
And when I looked at Shaney, it was in his eyes, the dreams, but they don't pay the bills. And that's what I told him.
And that's what you told us as well. Still doing it all for the love of hip-hop with YoungstaCPT, talking all things dreams don't pay bills. And I was just saying to you off air, I have so many things to ask you. I have so many questions, and I just want to know everything.
Something I want to say to you.
What do you want to say? Oh,
I think you're going to be like the Angie Martinez.
You're going to make me cry, I knew it.
You're going to be like the Angie Martinez of SA hip-hop.
It's not about me, don't do that.
Just a small moment, you know, a moment of praise as well for you.
Thank you, but tell me off air.
I just think that I need to tell you on air so that the listeners out there can actually hear this and, you know, and validate it for me as well. For those of you who know Angie Martinez, like the role that you play, especially in South African hip hop, is a bit underappreciated, I would say, but also starting to get noticed. And that role is you are dissecting our music a lot deeper than it was dissected before in the previous years. It's actually a pity they didn't do it in the previous years, because maybe those guys would have had longevity, you know, if more people like took time to listen to what they were actually saying, and maybe more like people that had platforms took time to listen and then speak about it on those platforms. Like, hey, did you hear that line of Double HP? Or hey, did you hear what Kulichana was saying that one song? Like, those things weren't available then for the artists, I suppose. But thank goodness we have you, because I mean, you don't only do it for me, you do it for like the whole game right now, you know.
I have to.
Where you're taking these songs and you're breaking it down line by line, and you want to know what they thought of when they wrote that, and you know, what was the intention when you released this. Like, those kinds of things are very, very important. The backstories, we've never actually had a chance to speak about our backstories really, and the inspiration and the meanings of certain things, because now the music comes out, you download it, you listen to it, and you think that's it. You know, you finished with it, you finished with the project, but you are just taking it like one step deeper, one step further. You're giving it a longer lifespan, you know, you're letting hip-hop live, so you're helping us also, you're giving us life, you know? So I just want to say salute to you for that, and for giving us life.
You really want to make me cry.
Keep the pulse alive, Azizzar. Please keep it alive for us, man.
Thank you,
help
youngin.
us. Continue continue in your marathon as well.
So on that note, right, because we were speaking about dreamers, and you mentioned Shaney Jay a lot as a huge inspiration for this.
Yes.
And as I was listening to the album, even when I was driving here today, I wanted to ask you, you know, dreamers suffer a lot.
Word.
And it's difficult, and it's difficult to, you were saying just now, it's difficult to reinvent yourself sometimes, it's difficult to keep going sometimes. And this idea of suffering for dreamers, for visionaries, for people who have really, really incredible ideas, where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's self-inflicted, or do you think it's just the ways and laws of the world?
It's God.
Is it?
Because God don't create us all with the same purpose and the same reason for living. Some of us are created to experience pain, and some of us are created to experience suffering and struggling and discomfort, and that's life.
I hate that.
You know, there's people that's gonna be born in poverty, born into poverty, like they're gonna have nothing, like no running water or no, you know, structural homes even, and no education and no electricity, and they will be some of the kindest, most heartwarming, most loving people that you will ever meet in your life. And do you know what? They will die in that same state. They will die poor. They will die with no electricity. They will die in poverty. They will die with little education. But that is their life. That is the life that was written for them. And then you will meet somebody also who is born into luxury, and somebody who's born into privilege, and someone who's born with a silver spoon and a continental pillow. And you'll have a conversation with them, and they'll be one of the most unpleasant people to speak to.
Yeah, it reminds me of a line from one of the joints. Just remember, I forget which one it is now, where you speak about how you say something along the lines of the wicked succeed, and they
go.
You know, they tend to do well.
Yes, the good man sees his death, and the wicked man lives long.
There it is, yes.
You see? And in Islam, how we are taught is that we must always be constantly thinking of death, because this world is a test. It's a worldly, simulation that you are merely getting through to see if you are worthy of paradise or if you belong below. So I look at it like that, like the dreamers will suffer, but they've been given the dream to suffer with. Now you can suffer with it and, just deteriorate and go into the ground on earth, or you can see where that dream takes you.
Crazy. I love talking to you, Youngin. So
I know. We could go on all day.
We could, but we're going to wrap up in just a few.
Oh, yeah.
On Hometown Advantage, you say something about how you hardly wear your chains, you hardly wear your necklaces. And it made me think, like, especially in this day and age and in our industry, your material things are the thing that dubs you as successful, and you are making it. And I was like, okay, so you have them, but you hardly wear them.
I've got like 6 of them that I've made over the years, and now I look at it and I'm like, I don't even wear these things anymore.
And that's my chat, is so why attain all of that? And then it seems like there's a small part of you that's like, why shy away from that? Why not wear your success if that's how we're defining success?
Those are like, I look at them like small trophies, man. Small little medals that I give myself over the years. I mean, as I said, also I had a different life before this, so like I have photos from my childhood and teenage years where I have also big chains on and rings and all these things that I thought was like going to provide me with status. And I grew older and I didn't like shy away from those things. I didn't like become this saved man who never ever did anything wrong in his life or had any errors. But I just feel like now I have this other thing, the dream that I didn't need to buy, and it treated me better than the things I bought.
Right.
So now that I'm, being recognized for this, people are recognizing me because I rap good, and people recognize me because my lyrics are dope, or whatever the case. I don't need to wear a chain even, because they salute me without those things. So if I do want to wear them just to be extra, like when I come to Joburg, I'll wear my chains. Just because I don't want you to think that, this is that broke rapper from Cape Town. Because that's the perception that obviously sometimes you're going to get from CPT. Look, CPT following a tradition of prophets of the city, of Black Noise, of Prasafani Kaap, and Godessa. I can assure you that most of them did not come with the bling bling,
right,
or any of that kind of watered down material. So because I'm following in that lineage, it's not important to me either. But like I said, I had a life before this. I was hustling before this. I wore chains before this. I had all these things before I was rapping. So like I said, I'm not gonna like become a totally different person and pretend that that was my past and that's not who I am anymore. Yes, I've grown, but those still exist within me. So it's a balance.
All right, so before I let you go, because you're very busy, very, very busy, man. So there's 2 things that you said on 2 different joints, right? There's the devil only whispers a suggestion, and then there's also a smart man can drive a taxi sitting in the back seat. Smart man can drive
a car sitting in the back seat. What
do you mean? Because if you look at it like literally, it's like, what do you mean? You're there.
So look at it this way, no? Like, okay, the first line was the devil only whispers a suggestion. If you look throughout the album, the theme of religion is very prominent.
Yes.
So you hear a lot of mention about God and the devil.
Yes.
Because like I said, this album was made from 2020 till 2021. So, I mean, I was very, very like low at one point, just with the amount of loss that I experienced, and the like obviously the way that everything was just like crumbling around us, the music industry, the business that I was doing at the time all got postponed, put on hold, or cancelled. So it made me sit and reflect and think, is this the end?
It felt like it, right?
There we go. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. You can, hit up our phone lines at 057. Let us know. Did you think it was the end?
But anyway, on the radio.
Let us know if you thought that the world was coming to a dramatic standstill. So I mean, I had that thought, and that's why you heard a lot of the music. So a lot of those, the devil only whispers suggestion, like these are things that I've heard throughout my life. I'm going to mosque in months of Ramadan, listening to the imam, listening to the khutbahs that get given in mosque and Jumu'ah. Like, you hear that the devil is not as powerful as you think he is. We make him out to be this great phantom of the opera, this menace.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's the power of suggestion. He presents you with the wrong and the evil and the dark, but it's your choice.
That's what I got from it. At the end of the day,
it's your choice,
and that's where the power is.
And that's where the power is. Okay,
right.
So that's the one line, and then the second line: a smart man can drive a car sitting in the back seat. I have been driven around for years of my life. Years of my life in some of the greatest cars that I'll probably never own.
Oof. Felt that. Ooh, that's
you
heavy.
Felt that one?
That's heavy.
It's some of the nicest, most luxurious vehicles that I probably won't buy me even. But I get driven around in that, in the back seat. And they provide me with whatever I ask for in that back seat, bro. Actually, sometimes the things is waiting for me before I even get in the back seat. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I've lived that life for so long for somebody that came from, like, you know, a quote unquote a street background where I scuttled on foot, on the train, on the taxi. I say it in the one song: scuttled by foot, by the train or the taxi, but I was charged to the maxi. I didn't need a battery because in my life, sometimes I didn't have money to even take taxis or take public transport. Then I'd walk.
Yes.
You know, to where I needed to go. And that was my life. But now I'm smarter than that, and I'm being driven around. I'm being chauffeured like some sort of a boss. And I'm like, damn, is this where it's come to? I'm that smart that I didn't even need to buy me the you know, the fancy vehicle. It's just appearing outside my house and I have to get in the back and it's going to take me to where I need to go and it's going to come fetch me as well. I must be pretty smart.
I love that. All right, so as we wrap up, as you're taking your bandana, just dropping mics, throwing bandanas all over the place.
Hey.
When people walk away from listening to this album, and I don't mean that first spin, because that first spin, for me, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You get a sense, you get an idea. It's an idea. It's a palate cleanser.
Yes.
But when they eventually walk away from it, having feasted on it properly, what are you hoping that they walk away with, and what are you hoping we understand more about you?
You know, I purposely tried to make this album like shorter and a bit
16 songs.
You see what I'm saying? I tried to make it short. I watched the interview the other day of a female artist where she was winning an award. She was accepting some sort of a plaque, I think it was, a plaque. And then she was like, you know, I've been given some of the best music advice from one of my mentors in the industry, and I'm not sure what it was. But anyways, the advice that she was given was, make sure that whatever song you release only has 50 words in it. And she was being awarded for that exact song. That's why she was there receiving this plaque. I'm not sure if it's Malado or what the name was. I forget now. But it was this new chick, and she was like being praised and whatever, and she was receiving this thing. And and that was her response. That was her best advice she had received in the music industry so far. And the only reason she was the best is because it actually worked. Because then she, you know, she got the reward. She got the award. So, like, I tried to simplify this as much as I could. No skits, no dramatic stories, no old men speaking this time. Like, I was like, yo, I'm not getting no Cape Townians to do skits on this album. Yeah, but
you had a little bit of a clip on
There's a small
the
one
Matador.
on the Matador, and that's the only one I left there. And the guy says in there, he says, there's no honor in being killed by a man with a sword, whether you get stabbed once or 20 times. And then the other guy tells him, like, no, there is honor by only receiving one plunge of the blade. You die an honorable death. Because, like, I mean, in Cape Town, Owens get shot sometimes in front of their kids, in front of their family, in front of their houses, and you can't have no funeral for this man the way they get taken out.
Yeah.
Execution style. That's a photo coffin.
Yeah.
You're not going to see your face. True. You know. So this album has a lot of references to life, death, and what I'd been thinking about over this time. I'm not saying I want people to take that away from it, but I want them to consider that the fact that you have these ambitions and that you have these dreams, they can still become a reality, but you also need to be conscious of where we are, South Africa, the time you're living in, a pandemic, and the fact that you, as well as 100,000 other lighties, have the same dream and are all trying to do it at the same time. So yes, your dreams are going to be accepted and processed, and the universe is always listening to you, so speak it out into existence. But the choice and the drive and the determination and that hustle still lies with you. So get out of bed after dreaming and make that a reality and become successful.
I love that. I took away choice from it, and I even tweeted something that you said at the launch the other day, where you're like, you don't wake up in the morning with dreams that kept you up the night before and not action them.
Please.
And so for me, I walk away with choice, and it's difficult sometimes. It's difficult to make the choice to get up. It's difficult to make the choice to not wallow.
That's the hardest part.
You know what I mean? But I also took away power, that we have a lot more power than what we think. And
indeed we do.
You did that. Thank you, youngin. We're done.
It's a pleasure
for
to
now.
be here. For now, yes indeed. Part 2 will kick off and commence again. Like I said, you are the Angie Martinez, and actually not even that, you are the Azizzar. You are the first one of this cloth, and you've been cut to perfection. So salute to you, and keep representing for that real hip hop, because we need you.
Thank you, young, and you can go now because you want to make me cry. Closing out with YoungstaCPT with Varate, because I think that's just the right thing to do.